Well, hello everybody. Let me show you what you're going to miss today, or what you did miss. This is day 4 in chapter 4. It's day 2 of our factoring. Remember, there's 3 different days of factoring. This is the second day of it. I'd like to show you 2 more things, and I need to beef it up a little bit and show you what I mean about factoring out whatever they have in common. But on the next couple of pages, I have the answers to the worksheet that I went over last time. You did miss a homework quiz, or you will miss a homework quiz, so you'll need to get in and get that made up ASAP. And then you should have in front of you the class example sheet. It says in there day 4. So it's day 4 class notes. So keep up with me on this. Of course, it's not as good as if you were in class where I could pause and look in your eyes and make sure everything's good. Then, of course, we got a worksheet for the assignment. So right there are the answers to worksheet 3. So if you haven't handed that in to me yet, you can make sure that your solutions are good. That's what they should have looked like. You can always pause the video and check them. And there's what the last page looked like. So make sure that you understand that, because we will quiz on that here coming up pretty soon. So like I said, if you need a little time on them, pause the video and you can look at them. If there's any questions, I would answer those, but otherwise I'm going to jump right into what we've done so far. Here's what we've done so far. The 2 types of factoring. This is the very first kind of factoring that I did with you last time. Notice that there's 3 terms. And notice this one has a C value right there. Remember, to factor that, we do this. We go 2 parentheses and an X and an X, because this is basically unboiling. And then I need you to find me 2 numbers that multiply to be 28. So your choices are 1 and 28, 2 times 14, 3 doesn't work, but 4 and 7. Well, here's the ones I can make add up to be -3 by going -7 and +4. And remember, we set these each equal to 0. And then we got to where we just did this in our head, so in the cool parentheses called the braces, one answer is 7, the other answer is -4. That was that very first type of factoring that I did with you last time. Here's the other kind of factoring that we did. This happens when they have something in common. Notice some things on this one. There's only 2 terms, and there's no C value. There's no number right there. When that happens, you factor out whatever's in common. So out of 25x squared minus 10x, I need to find the largest number that divides into both 25 and 10. Well, that number happens to be a 5. And I'm also going to take out an x, which leaves me 5x minus 2. And then we set that equal to 0. Remember, to get our 2 solutions, 5 times something is equal to 0. Well, one answer is 0. On this one, we're going to set 5x minus 2 equal to 0. I'm going to add 2, then I'm going to divide by 5. We want to leave those answers as a fraction. So that's review of what we did last time. Let me show you where we're going to go to today. So look at your examples right in front of you. Your number 1, 2, and 3, my directions on there say, FOIL each of the following. I want to show you something on this. Watch what happens when I FOIL these. I'm going to go first. 4x times 4x is 16x squared. And then I'm going to go outer. Positive 4x times positive 3 is positive 12x. And then I'm going to go inner and get negative 12x. And I'm going to get -3 times positive 3 minus 9. When I simplify this, notice these middle terms drop out. So I'm left with 16x squared minus 9. Here later we'll set those equal to 0, but not yet. I'm hoping that you see a little pattern here, though, on these. Here goes my number 2. If I FOIL this out, I'm going to go 7x times 7x. I'm going to get 49x squared. I'm going to go 7x times negative 2 and get negative 14x. Then I'm going to go 2 times 7x and get positive 14x. Then I'm going to get negative 4. Notice that once again the middle terms drop out. Those drop out, so I'm left with 49x squared minus 4. Why am I showing you these? Because here in a little bit, guys, I'm going to give you this, and you have to go to there. I'm going to give you this, and you have to go back to there. Last one, 10x minus 9 times 10x plus 9. 10x times 10x is 100x squared plus 90x minus 90x minus 81. Once I simplify, I get 100x squared minus 81. Notice that 3 times in a row, the 2 middle terms dropped out because one was positive and one was negative. The other thing I want to point out with these is since I'm taking 4 times 4 and 3 times 3, notice that I get a perfect square. 16 is a perfect square, something I know the square root of. So is 9. So is 49. So is 4. So is 100, 10 times 10. So is 81, 9 times 9. So let me tell you what these stand for. These form what is called a difference. Let me clean up my mess a little bit here so you can see this better. These form what we call a difference of squares. This type will always factor into the form of something that looks like 2 parentheses with a plus and a minus. Here's why we call it a difference of squares. I know the square root of 16 and I know the square root of 9. I know the square root of 49 and 4. I know the square root of 181. When that happens, it's going to go to 2 parentheses and a plus and a minus. So while I got you a little confused, what I'd like to do real fast with you is I would like to give you a list of perfect squares. So in your little box there, I'm going to give you some numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I could keep going. What I'd like to do is square those numbers so that you have a list of perfect squares. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 9 is 81. 10 times 10 is 100. 11 times 11 is 121. Those are numbers that you want to look for when we factor these. So here go. Let me show you how to factor a difference of squares. So here's what it's going to start looking like. I would like to factor 25x squared minus 49. Let me point out some things real fast. Notice that there's only 2 terms. But this time, there is a C value. And there's no B value. So that makes it a little different. There's no B value, so here's my thinking. To factor this, we're going to go 2 parentheses, and you're going to put a plus and a minus, or a minus and a plus. That part doesn't matter. There are shortcuts to these. What's the square root of 25? Well, if you look up in your chart, here's 25. The square root must be 5. So I'm going to put a 5x here and a 5x here, because 5x times 5x is 25x squared. And then the square root of 49 is 7, so I'm going to put a 7 there and a 7 there. There we just factored it, called a difference of squares. It's easy. Square root of that number, square root of that number at the front and the last, plus and a minus in the middle. Now we're going to factor this and solve it. So if I set that one equal to 0, I'm hoping that you would tell me to subtract 7 and divide by 5. On this one, you would add 7, divide by 5. There's my two solutions. If I got you confused, keep hanging with me. Number 5, you need to ask yourself, is it a difference of squares? And the answer is yes, because the square root of x squared is x, the square root of 100 is 10, and there's no middle term. So here goes. To factor this, I'm going to go parenthesis, parenthesis. The square root of x squared is x. It goes there and there. I'm going to go plus, minus, 10, 10. I'm going to set that equal to 0 now. My two answers, negative 10 and positive 10. Notice in the difference of squares, your answers are exactly the same except the sign. So one's positive, one's negative. Here's number 6. Ask yourself this. Do you know the square root of 100? And the answer is yes. It's 10. Do you know the square root of 9? You do. It's 3. Is there a minus sign in between the two numbers? The answer is yes. So here's what this factors into. The square root of 100x squared is 10x. The square root of 9 is a 3. And then there's a plus and a minus. Or a minus and a plus. That part doesn't matter. Now set each of these equal to 0. So in this one, we would subtract 3, divide by 10. In this one, we would add 3, divide by 10. So there's my answers. If you was in class, I would have you try 7, 8, and 9 on your own. But since you're not, I'm going to go over them with you. You could also pause the video for just a second and try number 7, 8, and 9 on your own. So I'll pause just 1 second if you want to hit pause. Try number 7, 8, and 9 on your own. If you don't want to try them on your own, then I'm going to keep going. Here's number 7. You got to ask yourself, do you know the square root of 144? You might have typed that in your calculator, but the answer is yes, it's 12. The square root of 49 is 7. So here goes the factoring of this. 2 parentheses, a plus and a minus. The square root of 144x squared is 12x. So I'm going to have a 12x there and there. The square root of 49 is 7. So it factors into 12x minus 7 and 12x plus 7. Now go get your two answers. So on this one, I'm going to add 7, divide by 12. I'm going to subtract 7, divide by 12. So there's my two answers. If I were to graph it, that's where it crosses the x-axis. Here's number 8. You got to ask yourself, do you know the square root of 9? And the answer is, yep, 3. Do you know the square root of 49? The answer is, yep, 7. Is there a minus sign in between there? The answer is yes. So here goes the factoring of number 8. There's going to be a plus and a minus because there's no middle term. I'm going to have a 3x there, a 3x there. The square root of 49 is 7. So there we got it factored. Now solve it. On this one, you would add 7, divide by 3. On this one, you would subtract 7, divide by 3. And then one last one before I'm going to change gears just a little bit. Number 9, I got 36x squared minus 121. Once again, you know the square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 121 is 11. So here goes. I'm going to go parenthesis, parenthesis. a plus and a minus. Square root of 36 is 6x. Square root of 121 is 11. So it factors in as 6x plus 11, 6x minus 11. And then we'll solve this. 6x plus 11, I'm hoping that you'll tell me, subtract 11, divide by 6. My other answer, add 11, divide by 6. So there's kind of phase one of what I'm going to do today. There's 3 different phases today. Here goes my number 10. I need to show you what we're factoring, where it comes from. This one's hard to see, so hang with me. Perfect trinomials. I'd like to FOIL these out. Well, here's what we're going to do to FOIL these. It says 2x minus 5 quantity squared. What we're going to do, guys, is delete that 2 and write 2x minus 5 again, right next to it. And then we're just going to FOIL this out like we normally would. So 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. Negative 5 times another 2x is negative 10x. And then negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Simplify these. 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. Of course, why am I showing you this? Because we're going to go from here to there here in a little bit. But there's a shortcut to it. Notice this again. You know the square root of 4 and you know the square root of 25. Here goes number 11. 3x plus 4 quantity squared. Get rid of this 2 and write 3x plus 4 right beside it. Now let's FOIL this out. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 4 is 12x. 4 times 3x is another 12x. 4 times 4 is 16. When I simplify this, notice I got 9x squared. Notice I got 12x and 12x. That gives me 24x plus 16. Let me point something out again. Notice this. You know the square root of 9, and you know the square root of 16. So there's probably a shortcut involved. I need to talk to you about this middle term. Notice that there's 2 of them. This is the hardest part with this shortcut. If this little trick happens, then it'll work every time. Come down here real fast. These form what is called a perfect trinomial. In a perfect trinomial, the square root of the first term times the square root of the last term doubled forms the middle term. And I'll show you what I mean, because that's kind of complicated. Here's what that means. When we want to go backwards, I'm going to look at the 4x squared. The square root of that is 2x. I'm going to look at the square root of 25. It's 5. I'm going to see if 2x times 5 times 2 gives me the middle term. I don't care if it's positive or negative right now, but it does. If it does, then I know it's going to factor with 2 of the same things. In this case, a 2x minus 5 and a minus 5. Well, that's kind of confusing. Look over on your number 13. Hang with me on these. Here's how you want to try to attack these. As soon as you see numbers that you know the square root of. Do you know the square root of 4? The answer is yes. It's 2. Do you know the square root of 25? The answer is yes. It's 5. See if this happens. Does 2 times 5 doubled equal this middle term? 2 times 5 is 10, doubled is 20. If that's the case, it's going to factor just like this. The square root of 4x squared is a 2x. The middle term's there, so I'm going to have a plus sign twice. Plus, plus, 5, 5. There it factors. I call this one of the square root shortcuts. Now, when you solve this, there's just going to be one answer because it's the same answer. So the answer, negative 5 over 2. And then you got it. Look at 9x squared minus 24x plus 16. See if there's a shortcut. Do you know the square root of 9? The answer is yes, 3. Do you know the square root of 16? 4. Is 3 times 4 times 2? 3 times 4 times 2. Does it give me that number right there? And the answer is yes. If that's the case, I'm going to put 2 parentheses, just like before. I'm going to put the square root of 9x squared. See this minus sign right here? I'm going to put 2 minus signs. Square root of 16 is 4. That's what will happen to make that work. Now to solve this, I'm going to add 4, divide by 3. You can eat. Here goes your number 15. I got 5x squared plus 40x plus 16. Here comes my questions again. Do you know the square root of 25? The answer is yes, it's 5. Do you know the square root of 16? It's 4. Now you're going to ask yourself, is 5 times 4 times 2 40? So 5 times 4 is 20, times 2 is 40. So yep. So I'm going to go 2 parentheses. The square root of 25x squared is 5x. 5x. See this plus sign here? I'm going to have 2 plus signs. The square root of 16 is 4. There it's factored. Now go get the answer. Subtract 4. Divide by 5. Okay, if you was in class, I would have you do number 16, 17, and 18. So if you'd like to pause the video, feel free to hit pause. Try number 16, 17, and 18. And notice that I have a typo on number 18. There should only be one X there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do them so you can make sure you're right. But here goes x squared plus 20x plus 100. Here's my questions to you. There's probably a shortcut if you know the square root of x squared and the square root of 100. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 100 is 10. Does x times 10 times 2 equal 20? And it does. So I'm going to go parenthesis, parenthesis, x and an x, 2 plus signs. Square root of 100 is 10. Set that equal to 0. My lone answer, negative 10. Here's my number 17. Do you know the square root of 16? The answer is yes, you do, 4. Do you know the square root of 49? 7. Is 4x times 7 times 2 56? The answer is yes. So it's going to factor like this. 2 parentheses, a 4x and a 4x. 2 plus signs because there is a middle term. And a 7 and a 7. My answer? I'm hoping that you tell me to subtract 7, divide by 4. And the last one, for a second, the square root of 121 is 11. The square root of 9 is 3. 11 times 3 is 33. Doubled is 66, so our little trick works. So 2 parentheses, 11x, 11x, a minus and a minus, because there's a minus sign, a 3 and a 3. My lone solution, add 3, divide by 11. Add 3, divide by 11. And then you got it. Now I've got one more stage to go with you. So you have a lot of choices now. You could start your worksheet and come back and get this here in a second. But I'm going to continue on. It's not a new kind of factoring, but it's combining what we've done so far. Combining what we've done so far. It's called factoring completely. Factoring completely means this. Look to see if there's anything in common first. If there is, you got to factor that out. And then look at what's left. And then we got to factor that. These are quite a bit of work. So hang with me on these next 6. Look at 2x squared minus 50x. First, you're going to ask yourself, is there any number that goes into 2 and also 50? And the answer is yes, there's a 2. And you can also take out an x. So whenever you factor whatever's in common, you put that and then you put a parenthesis. Now you ask yourself this question. 2x times something is 2x cubed. What's that something? X squared. Here's a minus sign. I'm going to put a minus sign. Now, 2 times something is 50. What's that something? 25. But we are far from done. See this piece right here that we factored out? Just bring it down. But now, look at x squared minus 25. You got to see if that'll factor. That's like the first kind of factoring that we did today. So I know the square root of 1x squared. I know the square root of 25. And there's no middle term. So that means 2 parentheses, a plus and a minus. There's an x there and an x there. A 5 there and a 5 there. Instead of 2 answers, we're going to have 3 answers this time. I knew we was going to have 3 because of this. Look at this highest power right there. That means I could have 3 answers. So my 3 answers, 2 times something is 0. So one answer is 0. This answer is negative 5. This answer is positive 5. So there's what we got for a second. Here goes your number 20. Look and see if there's anything in common first. One thing for sure, they each have an x. So I'm definitely going to factor out an x. I'm going to see if there's any number in common between a 4, 20, and 25, and there's not. So after I take out an x out of each of these, I got 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. Now look at what's inside your parentheses. I recognize 4 and 25, so see if this little trick works. The square root of 4 is 2x. The square root of 25 is 5. Does 2 times 5 times 2 equal that middle term? And it does. So here goes. Bring down your x. I'm going to go 2 parentheses, a 2x there, a 2x there, a 5 there, a 5 there. Since there's a middle term, I'm going to have 2 minuses in this case. My 3 answers set x equal to 0, so one answer is automatically 0. Do this one. You would add 5, divide by 2. Do this one. you would add 5, divide by 2, so I don't need that one again. So there's my answers. There could be up to 3, but in this case there's only 2. So these take a little patience. You'll know to do this whenever there's a third degree power. Take out something in common. So look at 2x cubed plus 18x squared plus 40x. Is there a number that goes into 2, 18, and 40? And there is, a 2. So I'm going to take out a 2 and an x. What does that leave me? It leaves me an x squared plus 9x plus 20. Now, leave that 2x alone, but look at this. Well, you know the square root of 1, but you do not know the square root of 20. So this is last time kind of factoring. I'm going to go to parentheses, x and an x. I need you to go find me two numbers that multiply to be 20. So my choices are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, that you can make add up to be 9. Well, here's the ones I can make add up to be 9. Plus 4 plus 5. I'm going to get rid of those factors now for you. And then my three possible answers looks like this. One answer is 0. This answer is -4. This answer is -5. So there's what we got so far. So it's combining what we did last time, what we did this time, with a common factor. I got 3 more to go with you. So look at your number 22. We have to decide if there's anything in common. Well, for sure, there's an x. And then ask yourself, is there a number that goes into 72 and 98? And the answer is yes, there is, a 2. So we're going to factor out a 2x. 2 times something is 72. That's a 36x squared. Minus 2x times something is 98x. That is a 49. Just write down your 2x, and then look at 36x squared minus 49. This is the hardest part of the day. You have to decide which of our 4 kind of factorings that is. I know the square root of 36 is 6. I know the square root of 49 is 7. And there's no middle term. When that happens, 2 parentheses, a plus and a minus. 36x squared square rooted is 6x. Square root of 49, 7. Set each of those pieces equal to 0. So I got 0, -7, 6, and +7, 6. So it looks like I just got 2 more. As soon as I see a cube, I know I'm going to take out at least an x. You just have to decide, is there anything else? And I can't find any numbers that go into 25, 70, and 49. So if I take out an x, I'm left with 25x squared plus 70x plus 49. Now we just got to figure out which of our 4 kind of factorings this is. So here's what you got to look for. See if you know the square root of 25 and 49. You do. It's 5 and 7. Then ask yourself, is 5 times 7 doubled 70? And it is. So that means this factor is like this. 2 parentheses, 5x, 5x. Since there is a middle term, my signs are the same. So both pluses in this case, and then a 7. Bringing this thing home now. One answer is 0. My other answer is subtract 7, divide by 5. Subtract 7, divide by 5. So be patient with these and determine which one it is. That's the hardest part. Last one. I got 2x cubed minus 6x squared minus 42x. Is there a number that goes into 2, 6, and 42? And the answer is yes, a 2. And I'm also taking out an x. Now decide what that leaves you. 2x times something is 2x cubed. That something's x squared. 2x times something is negative 6x, so that's negative 3x minus 21. And then just kind of go down what we've done so far factoring. Do you know the square root of 21? Nope. So there's no square root shortcuts. So I'm going to list that 2x. I'm going to go parenthesis, parenthesis, because there's got to be an x there and an x there. And then you got to go find me two numbers that multiply to be 21. 1 and 21, 3 and 7. And in this case, there are none, and I meant to fix that. So don't worry about that one, because in class, I'm going to have them change this to a 8x, and it will factor. So this one doesn't factor nicely. So what you have going on, you have a tough little worksheet. Make sure you spend some time on that. Keep last time's notes by you and today's notes by you, and see which kind it is, then I think you'll be okay. So good luck.